All right, Council, it is 7:02. I'll call this Budget Committee meeting to order. We had a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Humphrey, seconded by Councillor Gartner. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. I thought I saw you put your hand up. I really did. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no delegations. Public consultation, open session, opportunity for members of the public to provide input regarding the 2019 budget. Any members of the public? I'm assuming Linda's running out there because someone might want to. No? Okay. We will move on. Consideration of items. Number 1, we have Kaleidoscope in Schools pilot program funding options. Somebody want to move this? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Gilliland, comments or questions? Nothing? All right. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Number 2, Library Square Incremental Operating Requirement Funding Strategy. Can I get a motion? Someone want to move this? Councillor Gilliland, second by Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on this one? Seeing, nope. Councillor Gallo.
Where's the funding coming from? And secondly, if we don't move ahead with the project, what happens to this?
Mr. Seo, did you want to answer that, or do you want Mr. Gardner to answer it? Where's the funding coming from? And if we don't move forward with the project, what happens to the funding?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, technically, you don't have to approve any of the funding until you actually agree to build the square and agree to a staffing plan. So, this is, as proposed, is anticipation of, frankly, Thursday night's discussion, where it's anticipated that there will be an operating costs in the order of $700,000. And so this is an attempt to phase that in so you don't have to deal with it in larger chunks, either one chunk when you make the decision or 2 chunks if you want to phase it over 2 years. So there's nothing, in that sense, nothing happens if you don't approve it. It's just that you're pushing off potentially a bigger change at a future date in terms of the adding it to your operating budget. Where the money comes from right now, as budgeted and as proposed, and it would basically be part of the levy.
And what happens to the money
if we're collecting it through the levy? We're actually collecting that money. It's part of our budget, and if we don't move ahead with that project, we're certainly not giving it back to the taxpayers.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, it would form part of a surplus for a year, and we would adjust the budget the following year. So the money wouldn't be spent. It would just end up being, like I say, showing up as a surplus at the end of the year, which returns back to reserves. And we would adjust the future budgets because there wouldn't be the need for this 240 or the ones that might be contemplated in the future.
Councillor Gallo?
So tonight, what exactly are we doing? We're just informing that there's a plan, and this is the plan, and it'll move. This item will move to budget, and then we'll make a decision at budget whether we want to move forward with this plan. Is that my sense of what we're doing right now in terms of the motion? That's
so when you say budget, you mean budget for the project or budget for the
town's budget?
The town's budget. Well, if all was to be decided tonight, we would bring the budget for approval on the 26th of March for council.
With this amount in
with this amount in it.
That's,
yeah.
Councillor Gallo?
That's it for now. I'll have more when it comes up.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Thompson at the bell.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Gartner. Jason, there was some conversation last time. Traditionally at the budget, we've had a little bit of a, I guess, a guideline with regards to what's been pulled in and out of our budget to ensure adjustments along the way. From then, I haven't seen anything yet, so I don't even know where we currently stand at with regards to these conversations tonight. Is it not possible to show us where we're at? Because that's been a traditional piece. So, where is that?
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we actually were going to hand out a sheet to you to kind of give you an idea where we stand. We've also been maintaining the traditional schedule that you're referencing, which could also be distributed to you. But I think the summary that we'll be providing shortly will give you a good synopsis where we stand today.
In terms of the tax rate increase?
Correct.
But I guess what I'm saying is I kind of like to know where I am right now before deciding on that 240,000 that's before me. So what is the tax pressure we're currently looking at? Is it 3 point what? Including the kaleidoscope, which we just approved. Well, but it's coming out of reserve, so it has no pressure.
Currently, based on decisions made to date, we're sitting at 3.1%.
3.1?
Yeah, that's with the 240. That's with the 240 out.
And so with the 240 in?
3.6.
Well, with the 240 in, what I'm going to hand out to you includes other pieces to it. I'd have to figure that out with just the 240 added to the 3.1, but it would be roughly, with just the 240 added in with no additional stuff, it'd be roughly 3.6%. If you just add the 240 to 3.1, it's about 0.5% of a tax pressure on its own.
Councillor?
Okay, it's traditionally we've had that as we go along. It would have been nice to have. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I'm used to the concept of phasing in or trying to phase in capital costs when we're doing something like a rec center. But I think we did this for fire.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only time we've done it, as far as you can remember? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, in recent history, it's been 1.3% a year for fire for the next 5 years, which I believe it's 2020 is our last year of the 1.3 increases.
And this is something totally permissible for municipality to do?
Absolutely. It's actually a legitimate strategy that we can use.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have finalization of the 2019 operating budget. Mr. Arceo, is this when we're going to hand out the sheets to everybody?
Sure, yep. Yeah, you were going to run through.
Oh, I was going to run through a few things.
Yep. Just got those.
But I think that council should have the sheets. Councillor?
If I had some questions about some of the capital stuff, would that wait until our final meeting, or?
Did you want to, is it that you wanted to remove, you just had some questions, or?
Yeah, I have some questions. Yeah, I've looked deeper into some capital projects and I have some questions.
How about we deal with this operating part of it, and then after it, I'll come back to you and you can ask those questions.
Sure.
Okay?
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, council. I have some things. I mean, I've worked with staff to try to work on some of this stuff as far as operating budget. I'm just going to make a recommendation quickly, as I did last time. The proposed procurement consultant, I recommend that we remove that, and I'll give you my reasons. We're going to be hiring a new director of finance, And I think that we should give that director the opportunity to look at the staffing and decide for themselves what they think is best in that department. So I would, similar as when we had the conversations when we were hiring a CAO, and I recommended that we have a pause on hiring at that time because I felt that the new CAO should come in and reevaluate and decide on what they think is necessary. I think the same should be done when it comes to this specific department. So I'm recommending that we remove that position. So I don't know if someone wants to put that forward. Councillor Kim, Councillor Gilliland. Does anyone want to comment on that? Okay, we're just going to vote on that, removing it. Oh, we're putting it on the screen. Okay, it's there. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, and the two IT positions, we actually had them as conditionally approved because we need a report. Actually, Mr. CEO, can you just kind of explain that a little bit further?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe at the time council decided to use the term yellow light these positions because of a strategic plan that will be coming to council.
Councillor Humphreys? No, just to speak.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor. I could be wrong, but I thought these two were new hires to help with the new finance systems coming in and the new communication systems. Is this not those two roles? I just want to jeopardize
Mr.
that.
CEO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the discussion around these two is that they're right now they sit in sort of conditionally approved. So council would be adding them to the budget, but no action would be taken until the strategic plan has been produced for council to consider. What I believe is going to be proposed is that they are taken out and so that the budget can be finalized. But there would be the opportunity, given that there's a strategic plan, there would be an opportunity to come in year and present at that time as a result of the strategic plan how we proceed to move forward with staffing. So it's certainly these positions will be required. It's really a timing issue and whether they needed to be in the levy this year for this budget. So
understood. Actually, that makes sense because by the time we understand what we're going to do from a technology perspective, you may not need these roles till next year. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Council. So, someone want to move removing these two from the 2019? Sure, you can. Why don't we just get this on the floor first, and then, okay. Councillor Humphreys. Second. Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner.
When I'm looking at the description, it says the biggest advantage of moving ahead with this would be it would fill a current gap within our team. So I don't know who put this forward in the department, but somebody considers it very important. So perhaps, Mr. CEO, you want to speak to that?
Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we certainly see the addition of IT resources is very important to the organization from a go-forward perspective. The reality is that the strategic plan that we will be bringing to council shows a broader and sort of larger realignment of resources. And so we really need to show that to council to show what the final plan is. But it will include, these kinds of positions coming back in, but there's a little more precision in the strategic plan about how to change some of the existing roles and integrate them with a go-forward plan. So we know there's some work to do on that, and that's why they were yellow lighted. We know we need the resources there. We just want to have an opportunity to show council on a formal plan basis where those resources would go.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this one? Councillor Gardner?
So, through Mr. Mayor to Mr. CEO, if what you were saying about maybe bringing these positions in the future, so that means they're not part, they won't be part of the 2019 budget, but we'll still be hiring them.
Mr. CEO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what we would propose to do is once the strategic plan has been brought to council, and if council approves the strategic plan, we would then come back with we would potentially come back with a request to start the rollout of that strategic plan, which might include an in-year hire. So for the percentage of the year that we would need to hire that person, so realistically it's going to take a couple of months to get them on board. So we're probably looking at someone starting in the fall, realistically at this point, because we haven't even brought the strategic plan to you. So we would ask for funding from rate stabilization reserve for 2019 for the 3 or 4 months, and then we would add it to the budget for 2020.
Thank you. And I completely disagree with using the rate stabilization reserve for things like this. That reserve was meant for unexpected things that would greatly increase the tax, and therefore that reserve is so we can even out the tax when we have unexpected things. And we've been taking a lot of things from that reserve, and I think it's completely inappropriate. Is there any other place you can find money for that? Or can we approve a lesser amount in this budget?
Mr. CEO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, at the end of the day, it's council's discretion, I guess, where if they want to override their own reserve policy. I believe the rate stabilization reserve is in very good shape because there's also a policy that replenishes that, so it's a very healthy reserve, and it's in a sense it is providing rate stabilization for the 2019 year because you're not adding that expense in 2019 when you don't know exactly when it's going to occur. So it does still fit within the definition of the reserve, although I appreciate your perspective in terms of it being for unexplained expenses. It is used for certain things as well that are one-time in nature, or, and again, we're suggesting this is consistent with that kind of rate stabilization use.
Thank you. Could I just ask if anyone else was at the table when this reserve fund was established? I mean, the intent of that reserve fund is absolutely not in keeping with what you've just said, Mr. CEO, and it's certainly not in keeping with some of the things we've done.
Councillor?
Yes, sir.
You know, we just approved that we use the rate stabilization reserve for the Kaleidoscope project.
And you know,
so you're okay with that one?
Not really, but
you voted for it.
I know I did, but it did come out of the blue, so perhaps it could come under that. But the fund is really meant for emergencies, and we need to be prudent with that money because there will be emergencies, real emergencies that come down the tube.
Fair enough. Any other questions on this one? Comments? All those in favor, hands up high, please. Opposed? That carries. All right, Council, so on this list, the only things that haven't been decided is Sport Hall of Fame. Mr. CEO?
See, Mr. Mayor, I believe the direction of council was for staff to go back and consider a percentage of this coming perhaps from sponsorships, and then what would be the resulting piece that was left over. And so the general direction was it seemed like council was going to be in favor of the support, just whether it should come from sponsorship to be consistent with some other earlier decisions. In the analysis and in checking with the Sports Hall of Fame, this one we see is differently. It's a little more difficult to tie this to a sponsorship. This is becoming an integral part of the town in that it's in our facility, we're providing the curation, and so quite frankly to choose a sponsorship value would kind of be arbitrary given the integration of the two organizations. So we felt that it's best left in. We've talked about even other ways of perhaps involving the town even more in terms of the delivery, and so whether all these funds actually ended up going to the Sport Hall of Fame or whether we supplemented some of that with our own staff, we'd like some time to work out. But at the end of the day, if council is supportive of the Aurora Sport Hall of Fame, we're suggesting that it just be added.
Councillor Gallo?
Sorry, my comments aren't to the Sports Hall of Fame. I had a general question.
Sure.
The list that we have before us, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. This is not exhaustive. I mean, or have we made decisions on the other hires already? Because there's others on our budget list that are not here. I'm trying to understand, linking the two.
Mr. Seo?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, these were the things that have been raised to date in terms of not being finalized by council. So there has been no discussion about the other staff. We anticipated there would be a discussion tonight, but we didn't have anything to put together on a sheet in a plus or minus basis because none of those things had come up. So you had dealt with, for example, the IT and conditionally approved that one. I believe was another staff one that was conditionally approved. So the reason we pulled this one back is because we're saying, even though you decided to conditionally approve it, it's being suggested that, or has been approved now, that they actually come right out of the budget. So these are the net sort of impacts to the final budget that we're discussing tonight. But certainly anything in the budget binder is still open until the budget is approved on March 26th or whenever it's approved.
Yes, so what we have left, we've removed admin assistant, right?
Right.
Yep.
We have Parks co-op student has been removed. We have an accounting analysis, collections coordinator, program manager, facilities capital projects, site inspector, contract admin, fleet supervisor, and flex service person 2. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll finish this discussion and then I'll...
Yeah, let's just let's finish up the Sport Hall of Fame, and then if you want to start going on through that other list, then by all means. Councillor Humphreys?
So just relative to this one issue, I do think we need to include that in our base. I think that's really important. The Sport Hall of Fame is now a curated environment, and it's the AFLC, and I think we need to own it. So I'm okay with this piece being in here.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I think there's just got to be a better way to show it. I'd like to show the true impact. I know that last year I think it was close to 50,000 we gave them. That this year we've taken that first step and we said, okay, fine, we're doing all the curatorial, so let's take that 20,000 piece out of it, and that's why it's 28.1 now. But it's not really showing the true cost to the sport hall. So it's either got to be take more out, and whatever the town function is, it is. It's just. I think it kind of blurs the line. So I'd like to see it for the next budget or conversation at FAC, how to properly treat it so that it's easy to identify what is the cost to operate the Hall of Fame to the taxpayers.
No, and Councillor Thompson, just to let you know, that's kind of the conversations we had, is that even that 28.1, a lot of it is administrative costs and all that. And so, at the end of the day, we need to give staff enough time to, I think, for the next budget to bring it back. So as we said, is let's get out of the business of providing operating funding for third-party organizations. We'll bring that in. The town's going to provide the operating, but we do definitely need to show it as an operating expense, how much it does cost the taxpayers. I agree. But for this time, it was just too difficult to try to separate it, get it all done, work with the Hall of Fame, and say we're going to take that as well over in that aspect of it, and we're not going to be providing you that funding. The town's going to do that work. So it was too quick of a turnaround. So we're going to work on that, and for next year, definitely that's going to be the way to go, because that's going to be part of the policy that we're going to create moving forward, that we're not going to be providing operating funding to any third-party organization. So, yeah. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Part of that funding was to provide outreach to the schools. Mm-hmm. And who is going to be doing that?
That would still fall under their mandate.
And do you know who would exactly be doing that?
Their board, I guess.
Okay. It's fine for this year.
Councillor Gilliland?
I just wanted to clarify, was that you're saying it's a one-time thing that we're expecting a line-by-line report after the fact, so we're changing the process for them next year? Was that, I just want to understand what you were saying to Councillor
Mr.
Thompson.
Shield?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so what we're suggesting is that it be added to the levy, that in one form or another, it looks from a staff perspective that this will be the cost to operate a Sports Hall of Fame in the way it's currently operating. What the longer term would provide is an opportunity for us to consider if there's more that the staff could take on that would free up the board from having to actually directly be involved in it because we're so integrated, and leave that portion that's best left in the hands of the board to them, and if there's another portion that staff can take on, and that's the part we'd bring a full accounting for and show exactly, to Councillor Thompson's earlier point, what the total cost is of the Sport Hall of Fame, the space that they have, the curation, and how it's all provided.
Councillor Gillen?
Nope, thank you. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that line by line and where that actual funding is actually going, and understand that vision moving forward and what it looks like down the road. I understand that we are taking over the curation, and it shows that obviously there's an appetite for us to continue on with this relationship and grow that maybe even more internally. But again, I just want to see that more detailed line by line. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gillen. So, someone want to put something on the floor here for the Sport Hall of Fame? That we approve it? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Humphreys? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Mr. Seal, we're at 3.3, and I know that but previously we've had a list. Can we get that list with everything that's in there on that 3.3? If we take a break, can we get that, put it in front of council, and then we can come back and have those discussions? Because I know Councillor Gallo wants to bring up some of the positions. Can we do that? Can we take a break and get that full list of what is part of that 3.3? Mr. Sale?
Certainly we can. I'm just wondering what you consider on that. So you want, I guess, the staffing positions. Really, this amounts to the staffing positions, I think, is what.
Yes, the staff.
Because there's a bunch of other decisions that
yes.
have been made along the way, but you're not necessarily looking for those to be all.
No, just the list with those staffing positions, and then probably the percentages that, if they were plus or minus. No, it's not just for you. It's for all of us, actually. Could we quickly throw that in?
Sure, let us take a shot
Okay.
at it, sure.
So we'll take a recess, Council. Where's Councillor? Okay, Council. We're gonna come back. Come back from our break. Okay, so we have a list in front of us. Does anyone want to bring anything up? Any comments, questions? Currently, we sit at 3.3 with what we've done. (13), (14), and 15 have been removed. We've already said yes to 1, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, 14, 15 we already removed. So does anyone have any questions on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8? It's basically what we're looking at right now. Yeah, Councillor Humphreys, go ahead.
Mayor, so this is, what we have in front of us right now is just the assessment results of all key positions that are causing, well, I shouldn't even say that, but they're causing a tax levy impact, right?
Yes, so number 4, the collections coordination.
Right.
Program manager number 5 and site inspector number 6 do not have a tax levy impact.
Okay, perfect. Good. And the rest of these do?
Yeah, so basically, if you're looking at what has an impact to the tax levy that we haven't discussed is number 2, 3, 7, and 8.
Okay, perfect. And after this list, this is all we're seeing tonight? Or is there another list of?
This is it. We've dealt with everything else.
And these are things that we did not deal with at the last meeting?
The only thing that we did not deal with at the last meeting is 2, 3, 7, and 8.
Wow, I didn't realize we got so much done.
Sorry, Mr. CEO. He wants to throw in something.
So, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, 2 was dealt with.
Yeah, I thought.
It was conditionally approved. Yeah. And we have had no discussions about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8.
But those don't.
They were in the budget and they were in the departmental summaries and so on, but we haven't. There's been no discussion of today.
And that's because they're funded from other sources.
Only 4, 5, and 6 are funded. One's funded from water. One's funded from capital.
From capital.
2 of them are funded from capital.
So really, the only ones. There's a couple. Okay, no, thank you. I just thought there was a lot more that we hadn't dealt with, so it looks like we did. My list, this is good.
Okay.
If anyone else has any questions for now.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comment and question is regarding number 7, the fleet supervisor. I recall in the initial operating budget meetings, Councillor Gallo pretty much ixnayed all the new fleet items because we were going to have an upcoming analysis or consultant come in and do a fleet review. So this fleet supervisor, I mean, is there a necessity to have this fleet supervisor given that we're having a broader scope investigation on the needs of the fleet itself.
Mr. Seo?
See, Mr. Chair, I might lean on Mr. Downey a bit here, but from our perspective, we still have a substantial fleet, and we do require some resources to help manage that fleet. So my understanding of the work that will be brought back to council for consideration will be on the analysis of how long we keep equipment, what our replacement strategies are, when we repair versus send out, repair in-house versus send out. But even with the status quo, we are in need of additional supervisory services for fleet to manage what we're doing now on a day-to-day basis. So we're very confident we would need this position regardless of future decisions on fleet. And I don't know if Mr. Downey would add anything to that, but...
You're good, Mr. Downey? Okay.
Sierra did great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Kim?
Okay, thank you. So if we didn't approve the fleet supervisor, what would be the downstream impacts to staff today?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, fleet has been in limbo for a long period of time within the corporation. It has never had, my feeling, enough attention paid to it from a supervisory perspective. It has been floated from one person's responsibility to another person's responsibility. It's a very important operation within the corporation. It not only deals with roads and parks, but with facilities and bylaw as well. So it's cross-departmental. We have many areas that need attention within the fleet that have not had attention paid to them in a number of years. The fleet supervisor is going to be a very important have a very important role in identifying what those issues are and how we can fix them. The consultant is going to assist us in operational issues and how we can deal with some of our operational issues. But we will need someone at that point also to implement those operational issues. And at present, we do not have those people.
Councilor Kim?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the explanation, Mr. Downey. I mean, if we certainly don't have a point person to quarterback our fleet situation with the consultants, and we're going to be just running around with multiple staff members representing fleet, I don't think that's the most efficient use of or the most productive means to coordinate with the consultants. So, based on your explanation, I believe I'm fine with that then. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Kim. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Downey. Al, I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but back in 2013, as part of the budget process, we did have a request to hire a fleet services supervisor. I wasn't able to determine whether or not council approved that request or not. So my question through to you is, I guess, did we ever have a fleet supervisor? And if so, do we still have one?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we never had a dedicated fleet supervisor, and I'm not familiar with that staff request. But this is not replacing somebody. This is an additional responsibility, and as I said, we have loaded this responsibility onto a number of different people over the years. It needs attention paid to it specifically.
So chances are then we would have not approved it back in 2013.
You may have, and it wasn't filled, but I don't recall it ever being. It's not on my complement list, so if it was, it would be filled at this point for sure.
I think staff have demonstrated then in previous attempts to fill this position, and council may have put it off at that time. I don't know the results of the 2013 one, but obviously there's been a need for many years.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Anyone else? Oh, Councilor Gallo?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to speak in I guess, general terms. That I'm sure not going to make any friends around the table, but to say mildly, I'm disappointed in the way this process has taken place. I'm not accustomed to making big decisions with very little information, and I've read everything. I've tried to understand everything that I had before me, and I realize this is a unique year because we haven't gone through the Finance Advisory Committee, and I suspect my feelings will be different had I gone through a year of that. But I haven't, and I'm charged with making decisions right now with the information that I have before me. And I am struggling greatly. Whether any of you share this, I don't know. But I'm not prepared to move any of these, and without a full rationalization. I don't have enough information to make these decisions. I don't feel I have enough information in regards to planning to make these big decisions. Staff don't go away, and nor do I want them to go away. These positions will stay. And 3 or 4 paragraphs just doesn't cut it with me. It does not, Mr. Mayor, members of council, cut it with me. I cannot sit here and make these big decisions with that level of detail. I just can't, and I will not.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gallo, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was feeling like the new kid on the block here, and with the list and information I had, I kind of felt a little discombobbled with the lack of information myself. As far as like the rules and the staff, I kind of feel the same way. It's not that I don't think that it's not deserving or needed. I do feel like there's a lot of information there that I feel like I would require to kind of understand a little bit better. General comment, I wish I had this list before showing up today. I was a little surprised, kind of like given the format. I would have liked a little more time to digest what we're going to cover as far as this breakdown and seeing it kind of all the numbers there. That would really kind of help me feel like the sense of position that I'm in. So as personally, I just don't feel like I can make a decision today specifically on a couple of these items here, like the staffing and such, with such short amount of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I just remind everyone that the information is in tab 3. All this information, it just wasn't presented in this actual form. So the information's there. And as far as making a decision on big numbers with not enough information, I might remind everyone sitting at this table that we just approved $100,000 for the kaleidoscope, and I didn't feel that we had enough information for that, but yet we made that decision. So I think our job is to trust staff. They presented us with some information to make some hires. They've given us information. While we would like to see some more information, 100%. But 5 of us out of the 7 have been sitting through this. We have an understanding a little bit more, and I appreciate the fact that we have 2 new councillors, and there should have been some extra information provided to them, but we are where we are, and I think that I feel comfortable in moving forward with what staff have presented to us because I've been sitting here. And so I'm in favor of it. I feel the information is there. And I don't know, any other comments, questions before I ask for us to vote on these items? Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I do appreciate, my colleagues around the table who desire more information, and, who wouldn't desire more information. I think there's really no end to how much information that we could utilize. And I guess the information is how much quality information are we going to receive in terms of ideally we would like something that's quantitative that we can put our teeth into, but many of the positions that are available or that are being posited here, for my 4 years in the Finance Advisory Committee, half the time you don't see consistent metrics, and in some positions, it's very challenged to find specific metrics to guide you in making some of these decisions. And so, some of this is based on trust, some of this is based on our experience, and I know not everyone here, everyone has varying degrees of experience in council. And that's where we have to do our homework outside the council tables, meet with the individual directors and find out more about the position. And some of it is, what you come away with from your meetings with staff. So I do understand, would it be helpful to have more information, something more with numbers to it? Yes. I think given that this information was given to us about a month ago, I think we've had plenty of time to speak with staff over the last 4 weeks to try to gain some more familiarity. And, if some of us are not comfortable right now to make the decision, I respect that. But I think it would be incorrect to say that there's insufficient information because some of it is intrinsic in some of these positions that you're not going to get the hard numbers that you're desiring.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. I just kind of want to be clear that I do respect staff and I do respect all the work that you guys have done and everything you're asking for. And yes, I am the new kid on the block, so for me, maybe just a little bit more of an explanation in that one sheet that we were provided. I think Mr. Downey had given a pretty decent, more in-depth explanation when Councillor Gallo, or I'm not sure who had asked about that. I think it was Councillor Thompson asked about the position more. It would just, for me to say 100% that I understand everything fully just wouldn't be true. So that's why I wanted to kind of make it clear that yes, I am learning. I don't know if this is the typical process. I'm kind of sensing around council that maybe we would have been presented with a list here a little bit more prepared in advance before we came today. And I really just want to communicate that I wish that I had this breakdown a little bit more and a little bit more of that explanation moving into this meeting today. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I remember correctly, Councillor Gallo was talking about at least one other budget process that he had seen where everything was based on business case. And I will vote for this budget because I don't know what the I know what the alternative is, but I don't think it would be prudent. But I think his point is very valid, and I think that that when we get a description, capital or operating, it should have a business case scenario attached to it. And it's not just for new people, it's for people sitting at this council table that have a lot of responsibility for the public's money.
Councillor Gallo, second time.
Mr. Mayor, yes, while I'm new, this would be probably my either 7th budget, I think. So it's not exactly new to me, perhaps more than most of you sitting around the table, with the exception of probably 3. And my comments were not only regarding employees and new hires. To me, the operating and the capital budget was lacking significant information. And if it's only me, then ask yourselves why we have so many yellows and so many reports coming back. Ask yourselves that. If you were confident with the information that you got before you, why are we getting so many reports back? And I don't want to necessarily have this argument in public, and it's not my intent, but I'm being asked to make some decisions, and I feel obliged to express my view. And I think I have the right to do that, and I appreciate all your comments, and I hope you can respect that I'm not coming from a new position. I've been here every budget meeting. I've read every word of everything that came before me, and I've based my decisions on that. Not to mention, I've read other municipalities' budgets, and I've based my decisions on everything that I've experienced. And I find it very difficult to make these big decisions with this kind of information. And I'll be honest, Mr. Mayor, I have far more information on Kaleidoscope than I do on some big ticket items in the capital and operating.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim, second time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to respond to my colleagues, I mean, my comment, there's no, negative thoughts behind my comments. I respect, everyone's thoughts on this because, some people, have a different diligence process, and and so there was no negativity on my part in terms of my comments. But that said, there's one other position that I'm not totally keen on, and I'm willing to bring that out. So perhaps if it would satisfy the rest of council, there's only a handful of. I mean, we've cut out pretty well most of the new potential hires. So if others around the table would want to go in the same process, perhaps we would go through one by one whether we're in agreement to go ahead with the hire or put that on hold for another budget year.
So, Councillor Kim, if you want, what I'll do is I'll let Councillor Humphreys speak and Councillor Thompson, and then what we'll do is we'll just start with number 2 and just go one by one. Sure. And we'll do a vote on those ones. Okay? All right. Councillor Humphreys.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I was going to suggest a similar thing. I mean, if there's reason around the table that councillors aren't comfortable to make a final vote tonight, then maybe we need to understand, what more can be required. And if that's a good step in going through each, like you were mentioning, then that's maybe what we can do to help everyone feel comfortable. Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
I just thought I'd say that.
Thank you for the suggestion. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. From my perspective, I've always found the budget process to be, be a challenge. And so, over my years, I've tried to provide some feedback, and then we formed the FAC committee last term, and as a group, we worked on ways to improve the process. We brought in budget principles and some methodology around it and some processes. And so, it was always meant to be a work in progress. I think we've made some good steps. I absolutely think there's lots of room for improvement and to continue to revise, learn from other municipalities of what works from them. And I certainly welcome Councillor Gallo to the FAC and the ideas he's going to bring. I think it'll enhance the budget process for all of us. And I certainly would welcome all members of council to provide their feedback after this budget process is done to continually improve it. And, I think it's a never-ending process. And so I appreciate Councillor Gallo's perspective and thoughts and look forward to working with him at the FAC. And I hope everybody also provides their own feedback on what they like and what they didn't like about this current budget process.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And I agree. We all do respect each other's opinions. And, at the end of the day, I think that we're going to make some great strides, I think, at FAC with Councillor Gallo, yourself, and myself sitting there. I think we're going to reevaluate, and we're going to come up with a really good process, I think, moving forward. I've seen some things at the regional level, I think, that we can implement. As mentioned, Councillor Gallo mentioned, he's seen some things from other municipalities that he thinks that we could implement. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to make us better off, and it's going to allow us to have a better system when we look at how we spend the tax dollars at the end of the day. So I'm looking forward to that. So as I said, we'll go through. So we have number 2, Program Specialist HR. So Council, I'll just, I'll just quickly speak to this before anyone says. I looked at this position. I do think that we should approve it. I think we've struggled with training and development. As everyone knows, I've really been big on that from day one. I think that we do need to properly train our employees, look at succession, all that. And this position will help us finally create a good strategy when it comes to training and development. So I'll just leave it at that for right now, and go around the table and see what everyone's thoughts are. Councillor Galloway?
I have always been a huge supporter of training and development. I think it's super important to keep our staff all current and up to date. I see no issue with that.
Anybody else? Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would imagine HR would fall under Ms. Van Leeuwen. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Leeuwen. So these responsibilities, who in staff have been charged with fulfilling these responsibilities today, or have they not been fulfilled at all? Like no one's been doing them?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is difficult to develop programs with our current resources. Just to give you some idea, the last time that HR received any additional resources was in 2010. There was an uplift from a part-time to a full-time. Our complement has increased by about 40%, so we've gone from 350 staff to 550 staff without any additional resources in HR. And the industry norm is that the headcount is a 50-to-1 ratio, 50 employees to 1 human resources position. So we're struggling to keep up with the day-to-day and all the recruitments that we unfortunately are unable to focus on things like health, safety, wellness, training and development, attendance management programs, policy development, and all of those other things.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And you said we're at 50-to-1 ratio, or did you say that was the industry standard?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's the industry standard, is that you increase your human resource capacity by 1 position for every additional 50 people.
Okay. And what's our ratio now?
200.
200 to 1.
Well, we have about 550 employees. That includes full-time and part-time. But the HR resource is the same regardless of their full-time, part-time. And we have 5 human resources.
Okay, sorry, 100 to 1. Okay, well, thank you. I think those are metrics that we can easily understand.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Anybody else? So who wants to put this one on the floor? Councillor Humphreys, to approve it. Second. Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Number 3, accounting analyst. You'll move it. Councillor Thompson, second to approve. Councillor Kim, any comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Number 7, fleet supervisor. Well, okay, yeah, we can do 4. 4, collections coordination. No, we just spoke about it. We didn't take a vote. Councillor Humphreys asked that we go through each one and just do a vote. Yeah. So, someone want to move this one to approve it? Fleet supervisor. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gardner, second. Comments or questions on fleet supervisor? Seeing none, all those in favor? Hands up. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Flex service person, 2. Someone want to move this one to be approved? Well, we can put it. Mr. CO, where is it in our binder? Tab 10.
Last page.
Last page, tab 10. Anyone want to move this? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Humphreys, comments or questions on this one? Councillor Gilaway.
just wanted to ask, is this the same thing that you were bringing to council Tuesday?
Mr. Downey?
Through Mr. Mayor, that's correct. It's the positions that you inquired about, and we
Yeah.
responded to you, and it's in tomorrow night report.
Okay. Okay, so I'm understanding just from the emails that we had in our communication, and I was trying to understand the tree and kind of like how it all would report to one another, and if that would mean if you hired X amount of seasonal workers, would that mean we would need to hire less? So is this over and above that, or no?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we would then reduce our seasonals by 2
Okay.
by bringing on the flex person.
Councillor Gatline?
Actually, sorry, we reduce it by 4 because we bring on 2.
Well, sorry, I was really loud there. Yeah, in total, right? Because it was
Yeah.
2 for winter and 2 for the summer, and then it would just kind of.
Correct. We reduce by 4 seasonals and make those 2 flex persons.
Right, got you. Okay, and within that tree, I just kind of wanted to understand, because I know that the one tree that, with everybody reporting, it was with the lead crew, and I know this is kind of unrelated in a way, but it is because it's of who is managing who. Is it one person that's going to be reporting to all that lead, or is it going to be split up between the other people at the same time, or are they all? Does that make sense? I'm not sure I'm communicating that properly.
Mr. Downey?
Well, I think this is what you want to know, but
Yeah.
but for half the year, they will be reporting to the roads supervisor or the road section, and the other half of the year they'll be reporting to the park supervisor in the park section. So when they are working with roads, these people will be reporting to a lead hand, who then reports to the supervisor, who reports to a manager, who reports to me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Well, council, that's it. I do have one house cleaning item. Basically, I'd like to see us move $5,200 from the council administration civic responsibilities budget to the sponsorship policy fund, just to beef up the sponsorship policy fund by $5,200. Councillor Thompson?
From the what account?
This council administration civic responsibilities budget.
When did that
That has a line item of $17,600. That's always been there, and actually, and I just found out about it. It's usually a line item that comes. A lot of stuff comes out of the mayor's office when we do civic responsibility type certificates, buttons, lapels, all that stuff. Councilor Thompson, just.
I'm certainly supportive of moving it into the sponsorship where it has a little bit more policy and framework around
you.
it
I agree.
than an account that seems to have come out of nowhere. I didn't even know we had a civic responsibility one for
I
council.
think a lot of us didn't realize it was there, so I'd like to just shift some of that money from there to there.
There you go.
I think it makes more sense to have it in that sponsorship policy. I'll sit down with you on our one-on-one and I'll explain a little bit more. Sure, yeah. Councilor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, is there actually an accounting for how $17,000 has been spent, or was it spent last year?
Yep. Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, certainly there's details as to how it was spent each year. Historically, that budget has been used to pay the Breakfast of Champions contribution we've made every year. It's come out of that budget in the first place. So that is part of why we're proposing we move the $5,200 to the sponsorship fund in order to fund that request. The details as to what was actually spent in that budget, we can very readily provide that to you, though.
Thank you. I would also like to know when it was established and.
The budget's been there for quite a while. I think it was set up when we moved. At one point, there's an individual operating budget for each individual counselor, and we moved to a
Right.
consolidated budget. I think it was established around that time. That happened quite a while, I believe, ago.
Does this have anything to do with the amount counselors are able to contribute to charitable, if we want to go to a charitable dinner or anything? Has nothing to do with that?
No, it's not part of that, like tickets for an event or something like that? No.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Councillor Kemp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, question to yourself. Where did the 5,200 come from in terms of why did you choose 5,200 versus 10,000 or 5,000? Is there a specific need?
Well, as was mentioned, after looking through it, I'm just finding about this actual line item as well. This was traditionally used to fund the Breakfast Champions since 2015. And so the thought is that take that money from this line item and move it into the sponsorship policy, because the 5,200 is what was being asked for the Breakfast of Champions. And so therefore that's where that number came from.
Okay.
And so if the Breakfast of Champions meets the criteria under the sponsorship policy, well then that 5,200 would be there.
Okay, so that rings a bell then. So if 5,200 is going towards the Breakfast of Champions, then I recall that in previous years that the previous mayor sponsored using the 5,200 for the title sponsorship of that program.
And that came out of the council administration civic
So
responsibilities
that's what
budget.
that is. Okay,
Yes.
I thought that was
Yes.
just the mayoral's office budget or something to that effect. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions on this one? Can I get someone to move this? Oh, Councillor Thompson, you have one more? Yeah, go ahead.
So what do we anticipate spending the other 12,400 on for this particular line item?
No idea. Things come up through the year. As far as civic responsibilities, like I said,
So just so I'm clear, so we have a council administrative civic responsibility budget of 12,400.
Yep.
And then we have a separate one, the council contingency fund of 20,000. So we have two separate line items for things that might come up throughout the year.
Well, and I'll give you some.
Totaling $32,400.
Councillor Thompson, I'll give you some examples of some of the things that would come out of this that are civic responsibilities. So when we go to Grand, we just went to a grand opening today. Your certificate, the actual plaque that it gets put in, things like that of those nature come out of this budget line. Now we don't use the full amount, I don't think ever, but that's where it would come out of. Okay. And so it's there. So in case we need it, what if we have a flurry of openings? We have to get a flurry of certificates, flurry of pins. We have to get a lot of them. They start to cost money after a while. So that's where it comes out of.
So it's great to have the budget amount. What was the actual spend the last couple of months? Would
Mr.
Jason
Gartner
be
would
able-
have to get that for us.
Would he have the actuals for the last 2 or 3 years?
Mr. Gartner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just grabbing it right now.
Perfect. I'm just
Do you want to wait a sec before we do anything?
I'm just curious why we're leaving the 12.4, and if historically it's been well underspent, then I'd rather see us move even more into the sponsorship policy, where at least there's a framework associated with it. That's all I'm saying. If we've spent the full amount year after year for grand openings and various, that's fine, but if traditionally the actual's only been $5,000, once you take out the Breakfast of Champion piece, then I don't see why we keep it at 12.4.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Can we table this and we can come back to it and give Jason a few minutes?
Well, I have it now.
This is the last thing we're dealing with, so.
So through you, Mr. Chair, spends of the civic responsibilities budget include in 2015, I need my bifocals, 16,200, so that's actually pretty close, 13,816, 12,917, and 12,118. And to give you an idea what's going into it, It's stuff like Sprout sponsorship and ticket, face painting for mayor and council, slab cake, New Year's, police appreciation night.
So there are some events in there.
So it does sound like events. Yeah, you're right.
So there are some events in there,
Yeah,
Councillor Gardner.
it looks like predominantly cost of events and stuff.
And I think we're talking like the Canada Day cake, maybe possibly stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some incidentals that come up throughout the year that get funded, I guess, through the mayor's office, but it's considered council civic responsibilities.
If I may, just as a follow-up to Mr. Carter, just to be clear, those numbers where you said the actuals were 12,000 in some of the last couple of years, that would have included the 5,200 for the Breakfast of Champions. So minus that, traditionally, it's been $7,000 or $8,000 spent out of this account.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
So, Councillor Thompson, if you want to move another 2,400 and just leave this council administration civic responsibilities at 10.
Sure.
That's I'm open to that as well. If you want to put that on the floor and make it
I'll make the
7,600.
Yeah, make the amendment that 7,600 be moved into sponsorship, and this
That's
will be
fine.
left at 10.
Yep, it's a friendly amendment. Second, Councillor Humphreys. There we go. All right. Councillor Thompson moved it, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councillor Thompson.
Before you had brought that one to council's attention, I was thinking with regards to the council contingency fund. I did have a conversation with Ms. Mackenzie Smith prior with regards to just the overall value in the sponsorship fund, and at that time we had 40,000 because earlier in this process we had moved some of that council contingency money over, and just in conversation with her, we thought that perhaps 50,000 would be a more reasonable number, just to give a little bit of leeway should other things come up through the course of the year. I certainly like the fact that now we're developing a framework for decisions being made, and so I was going to suggest that we further reduce the council contingency from 20 to 10,000. If you look at our 2017 actuals, we only spent $3,400 in the council contingency. It's been my experience that typically when people come to the podium and we made decisions on council contingency funds, they're usually event related or some sort of sponsorship related. And so I don't think we would be leaving council short to reduce it even further to 10,000. And so we've already done it, so I'll leave it in council's hands, but I'll put it forward that we further reduce council contingency by $10,000, and that 10,000 then be placed into the sponsorship policy bucket.
Which would give us a total of 57,600
Yeah.
in the sponsorship.
Yep.
Someone want to second that? Councillor Kim? Councillor Gardner?
The council does council get to make these decisions, or is it staff who makes decisions on the
We've
sponsorship?
created a sponsorship policy. We just approved it in January that has the criteria, and if
But
it
it
meets
doesn't
that
come to
criteria-
council.
No,
Okay, so it goes according to.
after it does. with a
Yeah,
report.
no, I know, we get a report, but we don't. So, could you remind me of how much can be granted at one time?
Mr. CO, do you know how much it is?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's actually a limit. There is a limit? Oh, there we go.
Or is it?
I'm being
Ms.
corrected.
Mackenzie Smith?
Sorry. Thank you.
There is a limit for how much is allowed to be requested at one time. So if something is over $10,000, then it does have to come back to council for approval. So asks that would be under that amount would fall under the policy, and they would have to be evaluated within that frame, within the policy framework that exists.
Councilor Carter?
I think up to $10,000 is, I mean, as a counselor, I know we've argued at this table, I don't know if recently, about $5,000. So I'll have another look at the policy and the parameters. At this time, I'm not interested in transferring any more money to that, though.
Okay. Anybody else? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Yeah, we have a seconder, was Councilor Kim. So, sorry guys, I didn't see. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councilor Gallo?
My capital item?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
You had a question?
I did. I was just in my due diligence. I went through all of the capital budgets for 2018 just to bring me up to speed, and I wanted some clarification on. So in 2019, it's Project 72196. It's a Town Hall LAN room HVAC, and it's basically to provide an emergency cooling source in the event of an air conditioning malfunction. You might probably remember the capital item. It's $90,000. And I noticed in 2018, I'm sorry, just went away. It's capital item 14069, portable emergency cooling system, so a different name. But the project description, project justification, capital service level impact, project benefits, and the impact of the organization are identical. And it's for $25,000. And I just like to get a sense of, we have the identical description for two projects, one in 18, one in 19, with a different project number and name. And I'm wondering if someone could.
Were the amounts the same?
Nope.
Nope.
It was 25,000. And in the 2018, there's no indication of something in 2019.
Okay. Ms. McDougall?
If it's a multi-year project, you know.
Okay. Ms.
maybe.
McDougall? Do you have both of those?
Through Mr. Mayor. In 2018, I had it as that 25,000 of the funds last year was used because originally it proposed there was an understanding of a potential portable system that could be used to cool the area or cool the facility. However, through the assessment, it was determined that was not a viable option. And alternatively, we obtained quotes to determine a more permanent solution instead of the portables. And that's what came back with two quotes, one being 84,000, one being 86, just to give us a ballpark of what our ask was for 2019. The fact that the description is the same, I'd have to apologize for that. That is something I didn't catch. But the ask of this year is for a permanent solution to not be a portable air conditioning or a cooling system. It's actually permanent for that basement.
So, and I'll just ask, did we spend the 25K?
We've spent 25 to assess the need, yes.
Okay. Councilor Gallo?
Hi, yeah, that's the explanation. I guess for me, it's frustrating to see two capital budgets with the same description, and it kind of plays along what I said before in terms of, you know, as you heard me say, you know, more than once, these issues have popped up. and certainly not my responsibility to catch them. But I'm simply doing my due diligence and trying to best understand the budget process. So that's the explanation, and I appreciate it. And perhaps, and I don't know why the 2019 budget sheet would be identical to the other one, yet the price was 90,000. I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, I would have liked to, even if the description was the same, but something saying that exactly what the director told me,
and I
and that
agree,
way I
something
would
should
have,
have referenced that 25K in the
absolutely.
previous report, 100%.
especially considering we spent it. So we're
Exactly.
tracking that in some form, yet it didn't end up on a budget sheet.
Thank you for catching that, Councillor Gallo. Did you have anything else? That was it? Thank you. Anything else, Council? All right. Motion to adjourn. Oh. Oh, yeah, so we need, sorry, you're right. Councillor Gardner?
So when would be the appropriate time to try and add something to the budget?
You want to add something? Now?
That's what I thought.
Or what are you looking to add?
And
We're looking at reducing, not adding,
yeah,
Councillor.
I know. So every year we have an issue with wildlife crossing over certain roads. One is Henderson, and the other one is St. John's. I mean, we could call it the turtle issue. It concerns residents, and last year it made Mr. Downey crazy. I wanted signs, but I think we need to put something in the budget to try and address this problem. And Mr. Treese said that, maybe we should hire a consultant and figure out the best way to do this. But I would suspect at this point, on Henderson at least, the residents are pretty savvy with what could be done. So I'd like to have a placeholder in the budget. It wouldn't be a lot of money. I mean, I would think $10,000 would be the upset limit, and it would give Mr. Downey and the residents and council some flexibility to try and deal with this. Because if you're a resident, and I can't see myself doing this, but they take wounded turtles to far off. Miss Van Leeuwen, can you help me out here?
And just before I go to Ms. Van Loen, I was going to suggest, Councillor, that this sounds like something that you could work with staff and bring forward a notice of motion, and we could add this in at any time.
No. This is something Councillor Humphreys and I are working on together. Please don't make us do a notice of motion for $10,000.
Ms. Van Loen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to augment what you've said about the residents taking these turtles to rehab centers. And typically, I think one of the residents had to take the turtle to a rehab center in Brampton. And then if they are rehab, they have to bring them back to 1 kilometer of where they captured them. So it's quite a process for the residents if they decide to do that.
Thank you. And
Councillor Renner?
I think there was a situation where they had to drive a few hours for a turtle. I mean, I congratulate them. I thank them. But it's just crazy if this is happening year after year and we don't put some money towards trying to figure out a solution. Maybe there isn't a solution, but I think we need to try and figure it out. So, Councillor Humphreys, oh, sorry, you're not next.
Councillor Thompson?
I just want to clarify, because if it's a project and we're talking about either signage and or consultants, or I'm not sure, to me that seems more like a capital project than an operating discussion, which is an ongoing consideration. So, I think for this, it's an operating piece. I don't know if you want to revisit capital, but I just think there's an appropriate place for it, and we're contemplating here an operating budget. So I'm not sure how getting signage and or hiring a consultant is part of the operating discussions. I don't know.
And that's why I suggested a notice of motion and work with staff. But
Worst case scenario, right? I mean, maybe perhaps that's an appropriate use of the council contingency budget and what's left over.
Councillor Humphries, you're next.
To you, Mr. Mayor. And okay, so we were actually, we asked that and they said a notice or bringing it up here is fine as well, whether it's operation or capital. But there is an immediate concern because it's happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks where these turtles will be having their, everything's going to happen, right? So they do get killed by vehicles, and really there's some few simple measures that staff can take and almost make it a little project with some of the experts there. They worked with the LRC. Lake Simcoe was involved with this last year, I believe, and provided some suggestions. So I don't know if staff can have a bit of a project. I don't think it's a lot of money, and I think we could do something this year to protect the wildlife. And you know, if there's going to be an ongoing capital investment, for sure, we'll put it on the baseline. But I think we're kind of running out of time, and a motion is not going to, I mean, basically, with the motion, I think for next year, for sure, we'll need to get a study done and some real expertise. But this year, we're going to miss the opportunity to protect these this wildlife.
Thank you.
So it's like an immediate concern with another, it's a short-term and a long-term.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries.
So what can we do? Can I put like some money now on the table and?
You can put anything you'd like on the floor.
Like, can we seriously, we could put like $5,000, just, only because
From where?
Staff did recommend between 5,000 and 8,000.
From where?
Hang on a minute.
Why don't I go to Councillor Kim? I'll come back.
Sure.
Is that fine? Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say, just to, I think we all have similar concerns about whether it's the turtle population or other animal populations that are endangered at this time. I believe a few months ago, I'm not sure who sent out the email, but there was various recommendations made. They were very cost-effective recommendations. I don't think it would cost a lot of capital. If Mr. Downey wouldn't mind just exercising maybe 2 or 3 of some of the suggestions that were made, then that would alleviate all our concerns, and I don't think that would take more than a couple of thousand, if that, to implement a couple of the ideas recommended. Maybe if Mr. Downey can just take them away and just
I'm sorry I didn't, Mr. Mayor. I was intently listening to the Chief Administrative Officer.
No, there was an email that was going around a few months ago. I'm not sure it was from a resident or it was from a report internally, but there were some simple recommendations made, like some artificial tunnel, like a ramp or something that would offer the turtles to, go underneath it, or coerce the animals to go in a certain direction. But certainly it seemed like a few of the ideas mentioned were cost-effective ideas. Is it something that you can take away and have staff just look at a couple of the options and just implement them in the next couple of weeks and just let us know in new business or in a future council meeting as to what you implemented?
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been in conversation several times with this particular resident, as well as members of council. If there was a quick solution, we've already done it. There doesn't seem to be a silver bullet here. People talked about putting a fence up. Well, that's great. So for how far and what type of fence? And does it stay up year round, or do we take it down after a certain period of time? Do we relocate the nesting area, or do we create nesting areas elsewhere so that they aren't crossing the road? Do we actually do a road cut and put a culvert in so that they can walk under the road? But then that would mean that there would be construction on Henderson in order to do that. We can put we can do a number of things, and our concern is that we aren't wildlife experts. So a lot of people have a lot of different ideas that they think might work. However, we are also interested in making sure that whatever we do is something that is going to be effective and is going to answer the need. And so that's why we had recommended that we get somebody in who was an expert at this, gave us some options. We could then take a look at those, present those to council, put a budget together, and give council as much information as you could possibly have to make a decision on how much, of any, funds you wish to expend in order to deal with this issue. So that was our suggestion, and has been our suggestion for since the last year, and no steps have been moved forward with regards to trying to address that. So we're somewhat, once again, up against it. We're happy to do whatever we're directed to do. I just don't know that it's going to be effective.
Councillor Kim?
I'm not sure what the next line of questioning is. I see Councillor Gardner is next in line, so I'll listen to what she has to say, given she's a flag bearer for this item.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner, before I go to you, Mr. Downey, has Lake Simcoe done a study on this?
Through you, my understanding is no, they haven't. They haven't got experts on staff. They have suggestions, and we're happy to take their suggestions, but if that's what council wants us to do is based on their suggestions and the resident is satisfied with that, then we're good. But our concern is if those don't work, then what's our next step? As you know, we did create a turtle nesting area over onto St. John Side Road a number of years ago, but it was off the road, well off the road, so that they weren't going to be crossing or had no need to cross the road. As they say, it may be that they are nesting in the wrong location at this point, but perhaps we could create a nesting area that is more appropriate and reduces the amount of turtles that might be crossing the road. My concern is, and I'll repeat, we can do whatever we're directed to do. I just don't know whether it'd be effective. Maybe it's seen that if we're doing something, at least that's better than doing nothing, and we're happy to do that. But I don't know that that's going to save a turtle.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Councillor Gardner, I just got a question for you. So maybe if you could let us all know what it is exactly you are asking staff to do, and how much, and where you'd like it to come from. I think that would help out.
Thank you so much. I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. Now, we did have a meeting, Ms. Van Leeuwen and two of the residents, myself. I don't know if Sandra was there. And I don't remember what the outcome was, but I do remember that the residents said, we, people, have caused this problem by putting a road in, so we should have responsibility for trying to solve it. Could we do this perhaps as a pilot project and take Lake Simcoe's suggestions, take the residents' suggestions, and in the interim put some money perhaps towards, or maybe for next year's budget, but we'll be earlier in budget next year, money to hire a biologist, which is, I think Mr. Tree said would be between $8,000 and $10,000. I don't know, but we just can't sit here year after year and do nothing.
So I'll give you a suggestion. Would you, considering this is maybe one time at this point, maybe you'd want to take it from the rate stabilization reserve? If you're that passionate about it? No,
no, I would not.
Okay. I was giving you an option.
Maybe the council discretionary fund.
I was just giving you an option.
You're playing me, Mr. Mayor. I don't know. Councillor Humphreys has her name on the list. Maybe she can offer some more concrete suggestions.
Councillor Humphreys?
There's just been I just forwarded an email with the suggestions, including Lake Simcoe suggestions, the residents. There are some very cost-effective things that probably can be done, perhaps on a pilot, relative of where the money, I don't know where we're going to get the money. If it's going to be capital, then that's, we have to look into that. But right now, it's just a matter of trying to do some damage control and mitigation, whatever we can do. And, Mr. Downey's correct. it may not be as effective as having a study done, but perhaps putting in a amount for study this year for next year that we'll put forward. But this year it's for mitigation, that's all.
Okay, Councillor, I just got a suggestion from our CEO. Well, how about we just throw 10,000 on the budget right now, and we'll just put it in as a line item for nature.
Perfect.
You know,
That's fair. There's lots of those concerns. Sure.
And staff will find.
Perfect. Thank you.
Staff will find where that 10,000 is going to come from. Just add it. It's not going to. It's not going to add to the tax levy. It's not going to change the tax levy. 10,000 is. So is that what you're asking for?
Yes. Yes.
We're talking about operating.
It's stuff for mitigation this year.
For staff to be able to deal with nature concerns every year.
It's not
I'm just going by what I'm hearing from the two councillors.
Yeah, no, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not, I don't know if I don't think it can be capital because it changes, right? Okay. The requirement changes. It's an activity for staff to perform. It's not a one-time thing. So
you want to add a nature line to the operating budget for 10,000?
Yes, I do.
Is that what you like? Okay.
Yes,
Moved
I like
by Councillor Humphrey, seconded by Councillor Gardner. Okay. Comments or questions to that?
And you can check your emails for all the details.
I'm not seeing any comments or questions.
It's worth it.
Councillor Gallo, you look like you want to say something.
I really want to support it. I just wish, no offense to anyone, something was written, you know, those questions were answered, and we would have been done 5 minutes ago. A little bit ad hoc, and I appreciate what we're trying to do, but, you know, it's just a little frustrating.
I'm just trying to facilitate what the two of them are asking for. So, yes, Councillor Humphreys. Finish up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, last thing, we've done this before in budget meetings where we've thrown in a few things and there's a last minute discussion around it, and it's due to timing and when this all hit. So again, for us to put in a request for a study that wouldn't be effective this year, it's for next year. So to me, this line item just prevents a constant concern. I think I heard it's been a couple of years now. At least this will address this year's. It's around the Henderson Forest area, and it's important. Thanks.
So, Linda, do you got that? Can we get that on the screen? Councillor Gilliland?
I know quite a bit about the Henderson Forest turtles. I happen to have quite a bit of information on it myself, and I've been engaged in this for some time. So I feel really comfortable moving forward with this initiative, and I think it's something really good to include moving forward. If we had, say, extra money for something else nature-wise that, you know, as a town and a community, we can be responsible with as far as making our town better and protecting our environment.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second time.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, you just said about you're not sure what steps to take, what would be the appropriate ones, you know, fence, how long, all year or not. So how does providing you with $10,000 resolve those issues you just raised?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Listen to the conversation this evening. I'll reach out to the Conservation Authority and to the resident and find out what they want to do. And I will spend up to $10,000 doing what they think needs to be done. After that, we'll see how effective it is. But at least I have some funds allocated to doing something. And as I said earlier, perhaps that's enough that we are looking at doing something as opposed to nothing at all.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you again to Mr. Downey to put you on the spot. So reading between the lines of your answer, you're going to spend up to $10,000, but you're not sure if it's going to fix the problem. You're not sure if it's the right solution, but you're going to try something.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think you know me well enough. I don't come here unless I actually know exactly what we need to do and why we need to do it. I cannot give you any answers today right now to say we have an effective way of dealing with this issue. I simply haven't got the knowledge. And that's why we wanted to bring somebody in who would give us those options, present those options to us. we could put a cost figure to it, and council could then give us direction with regards to it. So I have no problem going out there and doing our very best, but I do not know, and I cannot give you any guarantee that it's going to work.
Councillor Thompson.
I think I would appreciate getting at least a staff report saying, here's the issue, here's the solution, and here's the cost, and at least we know then that the money's being well spent.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim, second time.
Thank you. I didn't think we were going to be talking about this for this long.
I don't think any of us did, but go ahead.
I think I'm in general agreement with Councillor Thompson and Councillor Gallo before him, in that I don't want to just ad hoc put $10,000 for something that for a situation that may not be addressed. I would feel more comfortable that I believe we Councillor Humphrey said we have about 4 weeks before the turtle crossing. I'm not sure if it's possible to have some kind of report back to council before then, just to kind of give us an idea as to what recommendations are going to be implemented and the probability of success, if that's even possible. If we were not able to obtain the services of a environmental or a consultant or a biologist by that time, then it would seem that the solution's not going to be implemented in time. It's just going to be, we're going to be throwing stuff against the wall to see if it sticks. And if that's the case, I don't want to be spending $10,000 on something that has a low probability of success without expert weigh-in. And I know that's what Mr. Downey's concerns was. So I would feel more comfortable if he came back within a couple of weeks or before the turtle crossing and let us know how the money is going to be spent. And if by that time we don't know those recommendations and it doesn't come from an expert, then it would mean that this $10,000 would probably be going towards the next season. So I just want to make sure that this $10,000 isn't just spent on something to just look good to the public that we're doing something. So I'm not sure how that helps the cause, but I would like this to come back before any money is spent on this.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you,
Second time.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm with Mr. Downey on this one, and the other councillors, that I think I'd be hypocritical if on the one hand I say, I have no information, I can't make a decision, and I have no information and I'm going to make a decision. So I need some information to make a decision. So I'm happy to ask staff to come back with a report, and should it require funds, I'm happy to fund it. But even if we have a 3-week window, I feel even if we throw some money at it, I'm not sure we're going to be able to mobilize and actually be effective. So I can't support it as it is.
Councillor Gilliland, second time.
I happen to have a lot of information on it, so just talking about what you're saying and kind of have a little bit of history personally with it, so I feel like I do have a lot of information. Just reading this email that was just sent to everybody just now by Councillor Humphreys, it does kind of mention some of the professional opinions by people who do work at the LSRCA and how they've been patrolling the area for the last few years and do have a lot of expertise, and I know they have been conferring with them about this problem, so I feel like we do have some great options here to kind of at least start doing something better than nothing. And I believe, for us to reach out to the LSRCA and just kind of confirm some of these does give us a start moving forward. I'm not suggesting we spend $10,000. I'm suggesting that this is a line item that it would address nature concerns, not necessarily justice concerns. It could be for a multitude of things, and maybe these are not. This is not $10,000 worth of a startup. Maybe if people feel more comfortable, or council would feel more comfortable, start it at I think I heard around the council table 5 to 8 was recommended. So, you know, maybe we just start with the lower side if that makes us more comfortable with that number. But I do feel that there are some great recommendations to at least maybe do some sort of mitigation in the next coming weeks as opposed to doing nothing.
Thank you, Councillor. Everyone's spoken twice. Councillor Gardner, I'll let you finish off, but just before you do, yeah, I mean, I think everyone around this table sees a need to come up with something for us to look at how we can protect the turtles when they're crossing. But I agree. I mean, we don't have the information in front of us. We're just basically throwing this. We're almost throwing it out the window and saying just do something instead of doing nothing, and I don't think that's a good way of doing it. I think Mr. Downey, we're looking at approving this budget March 26th. If possible, you could bring that information as far as what Lake Simcoe are those suggestions coming out of Lake Simcoe, so we can have a better understanding of what that information is. And then maybe we can revisit that on March 26th. But I think right now, yeah, I'm not in favor of this just to say that we're doing something. Councillor Gardner, did you want to speak one last time?
Thank you. We all have this email that's been sent to us by Councillor Humphreys, who's busy talking. So I'm referring to the email that you just sent all of us, and there, if you'll have a look at it, there's some very definite things here that can be done, and Lake Simcoe has some suggestions. So there's, I just sent it to Mr. Downey. If you would have a look at it, perhaps, and there's 6 concrete suggestions.
So, Councillor, I would suggest, Mr. Downey, if can you have something put together for us for March 26th, listing some of the options that could possibly be implemented with this $10,000?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you wish, we could put a staff report together, and we will use the information that Councillor Humphreys has provided to us from Conservation Authority as that foundation. I would be happy to present options to you, and see what I can't find out from that biologist at the Conservation Authority on their effectiveness. But I would imagine every situation is unique. But I'd be happy to provide the options that they are looking at, and if I can, also put some dollar figures towards the implementation of those.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I don't believe that the Conservation Authority has an expert on staff, but it says that they have a wealth of knowledge and experience in this field. I'm at the meeting. I'm at the board meeting on Friday, so I'll ask who the appropriate person would be for you to be in touch with. Thank you.
So, Council, did you want to vote on this, or did you, Councillor Humphreys, did you want to pull this back and wait till the 26th? We're just, I know. Well, as the mover and the seconder, would you be willing to take this off the floor, and we'll wait till March 26th, and then we can revisit it? We're only looking at 2 weeks. 1 week, sorry. Councillor Humphreys? Okay, so you're gonna, okay. Councillor Gardner, you okay with that? We're in a committee meeting. Yeah, we're in a committee meeting. Okay. Withdrawn. Council, anything else? Do we need a motion, Mr. Clerk, as far as this number 3, the finalization? No. No. So we need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gardner. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned.